All right, everyone, time for some post-Halloween humor here with Trump and his Serpent staff, actually, the day before Halloween. You know, they have the White House party. The kids come by and get some, candy and hang out with Melania, I guess, and carve pumpkins or whatever. It looks like it's a fun time. You know, they have their little costume stuff. But one girl was dressed, I guess, as an Egyptian queen or priestess and had this quite good-looking staff, actually. It was fairly large and had like a cobra on the end. And Trump's like, ooh, wait, I need this for a second. He takes it. And he starts going like this to the paparazzi, the so-called reporters, the fake news journalists there. And he's like, oh, you know what I'm doing? He's casting a spell on them, basically. I thought this was funny, and some people were covering it as though it was meant to be malevolent. Come on. You're around around a bunch of kids that are high off candy anyway, and you're having a good time, sort of being your stereotypical self. And this is exactly what Trump is good at. He's good at acting roles. If you actually think that he conjures dark rituals in dark corners somewhere in the White House, probably not. He's probably like an agnostic or something, all things considered, actually. But it is funny, and maybe it's mimetic in form. He certainly got into the news for it. But then before that, a couple days before, of course, he had attacked the fake news media again. And everyone was up in arms. Oh my goodness, he's doubling down on attacking us. Oh, woe is us. Like Jim Acosta comes out and says it. It's like he's only referring to the portion of specifically the corporate media entities that is, habitually lying to people. That is the spin cycle. He's making fun of propaganda. The thing is, before Trump was in office, most of these liberals that have a problem with Trump saying these things now, they said the same shit. Oh yeah, there's some real, losers in the media. Oh, fucking the man is trying to melt your mind with corporate propaganda. These groups are just a bunch of corporations anyway. Some of them, they take bribes from foreign states, which is true. The government is full of shit, has spied on journalists before, and they do nothing. They don't do investigative journalism. They get payoffs all the time from corrupt, slimy people within politics and business. Absolutely. So why is it now that somehow people that consider themselves liberals are taking seriously the claim, again, by 7-figure pundits working for 8-figure companies with 9- and 10-figure parent firms? Why is it that you are now taking seriously the claim that these people are beyond reproach or somehow sacred, like the Constitution talks about cable networks? No, it doesn't. It talks about the press. What is the press? It is literally the printing press. The publishing of information by any mechanical or electronic means that goes beyond the interpersonally verbal. If I'm talking to you in person, I'm protected by the First Amendment's right to free speech. If I am printing literature, or making a blog, or making a video, like I am now, or anything else, or if I'm talking on a street corner to many people, it falls under fundamentally the right of the press if it is informational in any meaningful way. An opinion, a piece of news, something like that. The idea was that the literal idea of protecting the press as literally at that time, a mechanical instrument of information dissemination is that people were used to the censorship of material by the state and by entities empowered to do so by the state, by the way, private presses. They were used to the censorship of information, literary or otherwise, by the crown. They were used to people's philosophical opinions, especially being basically put on naughty lists and repressed in some way. Either you can't, print this at all, or it's restricted in some manner, like, yes, well, we'll have 10 copies, you can consult in proper libraries with a proper reason, otherwise you're not allowed to read this evil, forbidden knowledge about liberty or any of this other bullshit that you keep talking about. That's basically the point. That goes well beyond a corporate entity that makes a profit and is motivated, by the way, by that profit or wouldn't exist, and their right to disseminate information. Yeah, CNN has the right to lie about people apparently if it wants. Up to and including literal defamation at this point, because they can always claim they have an anonymous source that they don't have to divulge. It's very good for them. They can literally defame a political or business opponent and nobody can do anything about it legally unless they're able to do some undercover op and get actual proof that it happened, which almost never happens. So they can defame people literally and get away with it. Well, likewise, some YouTuber, some blogger or something has the right to disseminate their opinion as well. The idea that groups that systemically lie, especially groups that have been around long enough to have been pro-war, pro-shitty government surveillance, pro-authoritarianism, pro-abuse and tyranny. The fact that these groups come out and complain about being lumped in with the fake news media, well, you are literally fake news. You say things that are not true, therefore fake. you're, part of the news, therefore news. There is no other moniker that really works so well. By the way, why is it that all of these people, if they don't feel guilty about being fake, why do they assume that they're part of this group? Simply criticizing Trump based on an opinion you have. Like I've criticized Trump, for example, based on his withdrawal from the Intermediate Missile Treaty with Russia. I've criticized him for his comments about black sites early on in his presidency, the CIA black sites wanting to reopen them. I've criticized him based on the fact that he didn't refute some of his more hardline fans when they kept clamoring for, mass deportation that would require literally suspending the Constitution along the border in order to search home by home with heavily armed troops, because it's not constitutional or pragmatic. I've criticized him, but I do that based, number one, it's my opinion on these things. And number two, I don't act like the fact that I disagree with him on one thing makes him Adolf Hitler. Oh my God, he said something I disagree with. He is evil. He is a horrible, despicable person. Let's write 10 more articles that they're not subjective. It's not just my opinion about what he says. And it's just literal fakery. Like, oh, I think Trump is Hitler. Here's why. The other day he ate the wrong flavor. He said he liked vanilla ice cream. This is a dog whistle to racists. Well, that's tabloid spew. The problem is that these groups have literally devolved into tabloids. They're playing Trump's game, number one, so they're always going to lose. And he's going to keep doubling down, number two. They just can't get enough of it. Fucking, what's his name there? Jon Stewart the other night came out and said, oh, well, these people lose all the time because, they're playing Trump's game. They get hot under the collar. They take his insults personally. Yes, they do. The thing is, isn't it a little bit telling that when Trump invokes the fake news, all of these journalists assume that he's talking about them? Do you feel guilty at all about spreading misinformation on behalf of multi-billion-dollar multinational parent corporations while getting a 7-figure salary for doing so? 10 years if you said, well, the news is basically a bunch of fake shit. Every liberal in this country would have agreed with you. Now all of a sudden they all disagree with you. No, they're sacred. Trump hates the First Amendment. That's funny. I don't feel suppressed. The only people trying to suppress me are a bunch of craptivists that also try to suppress everybody else that I want to talk to based on the fact that we don't think that Trump is Adolf Hitler. They want to suppress us, deplatform hate or whatever. Yeah, Silicon Valley gets goaded into doing payment processors. So corporations, again, multi-billion, in some case dollar corporations, fed by the lamestream media that literally defames the rest of the press online all day. Oh, Gab is a Nazi site. This person is a Nazi. That person, they're really far right. They're stoking violence. No, they're not. That's all a bunch of bullshit. It's also fake news. Yeah, the Wall Street Journal's fake news. Like they had named me in a hit piece on the alt-tech revolution once too. The fucking BuzzFeed. Like as though anybody questions that they're fake. Even their own readers, half of them know it. Salon or something like that. It's not partisan either. No, Drudge is very fake. Look, there are claims now that at least a few of these major right-wing news groups essentially took hush money from Silicon Valley. There's rumblings that might be released as info before the midterms, or maybe thereafter for good reason. That would be interesting. I can think of 3 or 4 pundit names on the old right. I can think of 3 or 4 people that I think of as part of that group. I'm not going to name names because we don't even know that the report is true. And I'm pretty sure I know which Silicon Valley firm they're talking about as well and which 2 or 3 publications. I think I got a pretty good idea of what they're discussing. By the way, I'll definitely report on that if it breaks at the time. Feed me info. By the way, people can send me like news tips and stuff, especially anything with regards to censorship and alt tech. Poll analysis, stuff like that. Don't send me like bullshit links though. Sometimes people they'll send me a Sputnik link. Sputnik's basically a tabloid too. You've got to understand there are satirical publications that occasionally cover kind of real news. That is also fake. It's harmlessly fake. They're not like propagandists, but it's not real, in other words. Illuminati shadow reptilian people planning to take over world. Nancy Pelosi is really a clone. The new plan to get Hillary Clinton to run in 2024. No, this stuff is not actually true. That's about all. Peace out.